Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to the November 27th meeting of the North Kingstown School Department Building Subcommittee. I'm not sure if anyone has signed up for public comment. I'll go up there and get that sheet, but if anybody wants to speak, please, if you could sign up for public comment, I'd appreciate that. To the members of the committee, I'm going to pass around the attendance sheet. We do have a quorum, which is great, but if you could just make sure you sign it, that way we know who is here and we have an official count of the quorum, I'd appreciate that.
Members, nobody.
All right. So no members of the public would like to speak? Okay, excellent. Just as a, you would? Okay, good, that's perfect. Good. And just as a FYI, because we have a busy agenda, we'd like you to take advantage of the opportunity to speak now, because during the meeting it would pretty much just be committee members. So if there's anything you'd like to give notations to us on, now would be the time. So, and if you could just give your name and your address.
Mary Gorback, 25 North Road, Saunderstown. And I had written something up, but I'll be fast instead, faster than 3 minutes instead. I find it pretty upsetting, the lack of education, both on the part of individuals and just getting the information out about what was known. And it's hard to continue to hear all these questions about why didn't anyone look at building 2 new schools? Why didn't anybody look at renovating the schools? And this was all done and is all available to the public online. But somehow we need to do a better job, and I'm not sure what that means. And some of it is, a lot has to do. Some has to do with neighborhood schools and nationwide. Those are becoming a thing of the past because of energy costs and environmental concerns with greenhouse gases and meeting state mandates, which we have to do. I would like to know, I know with one of the schools that did get their bond accepted, they had a really, I think maybe it was Barrington, I can't remember, but a very nice site available for the public. And they talked about, for example, retiring bonds and gave an estimate of how that would affect. I know that's a hard thing to do, but I think that would be something that would help. And also just to reiterate what they said, what the architects said about renovating the schools and how they could never be as energy efficient, and that in fact the cost per square foot would be 3 times as much in Whitford Middle School, even with air conditioning and ventilation, as a new combined middle school. And that's something taxpayers pay every single year. And it also is a shame that the state said 77% passed this the money for the reimbursements. We're paying that. We should be taking, we should be using that reimbursement money. So I think that a big thing needs to be education. It is for education, but we need to educate the community better. So I hope that's big topic of discussion.
And I will say, if I may, and thank you, and if again, that was public comment, but I have to say that I agree that the information was available on the school department website. I mean, I just want to commend the school department. That website had a wealth of information. That, if you took your time to go through that, there wasn't a question that couldn't have been answered. I will say that I think that in the future, it's important that we, as the town finance, do a better job of explaining what the impact would be and how the debt cliff works. It's just so tough to do because there's so many different intangibles as far as timing. I mean, do we retire the debt cliff in 2027, but what if we know the interest rates are going down in 2028, or if the interest rates went down in 2026, we're going to jump on it with a ban and then go with a bond. And so there's so many different decisions we make and to the benefit of the town that you'd hate to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then if you don't do that, you misled them. And so we were very careful about not being too exact about the debt cliff and the interest rates, because the economy could turn and we would make a different decision for the betterment of the taxpayer. And so we just didn't want to say anything to mislead them, but, so I will agree, but at the same time, the
And-
school department had a wealth of information. I mean, it was a very impressive website.
Yeah, and all the meetings you could go to, but I don't know that the public really knows about all of this. Maybe we need big signs like, you know, the opposition, as I hate to use that word, but as people, you know, a big sign saying, go to, you know, NKSD new building, and to keep up, and post those several, you know, large people driving past. I don't do social media. A lot of my friends actually don't, and so it's hard to know. And the newspapers, what, 5,000 out of 25,000 subscribe. So it is a kind of a hard problem, and I understand that. And I thank all of you for the tremendous job you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public would like to speak? Please feel free. Excellent. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the previous meeting minutes, which were sent to us within the invite from November 14th. If there's not any questions or suggested revisions, there's a motion in order to accept them.
So moved.
There's a second? All in favor? Opposed? Excellent. The next item is the discussion of the FY25 capital improvement plan. Within that, there are three sub-discussions. The relationship to the potential spring bond, the prioritization of projects, and the funding mechanism. And so I'll turn this over to the superintendent, but between Councilperson Page and myself, if there's any assistance we can be as a result of the last council meeting, please let us know.
Thank you. So we prepared for this evening a still draft, but it's more final than draft from last time, a 5-year capital improvement plan for the district facilities. All of you have that in front of you, and we have it up on the website. It is separated out by year, but also within each fiscal year, it's separated out by categories and schools of the work that we're going to do. I just want to preface this that this capital improvement plan is based on the facility assessment analysis that we had shared out months ago with the committee to review to see the needs across all of the district schools. And this is also based on another, you know, a bond. We started the work for creating this based on the bond that was rejected in November. There's hopes that we can go out with another question, you know, we talked about in May. So this plan that's put together would need the funding from a bond in order to renovate the schools. This capital improvement plan does not have the build of a new school. That's not the purpose of a capital improvement plan. The capital improvement plan is regarding renovations and updates to all the schools. So you'll see that the 2 middle schools are included in this document. Our next steps, you know, I was talking to Mr. Boardman today, we're gonna have a plan B, because if there's no bond money, then this capital improvement plan that we will have is gonna look very, very different for funding. So this is what we need right now. This is looking at every building in the district, the needs of the buildings, and what needs to happen. And so we're gonna go through this and ask for feedback from this committee for any other changes. It's going to school committee at the next meeting. And then from there, it'll go to the asset management committee. Any questions before we start going through everything?
Certainly. So just to walk you through this document, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the fiscal year that we're targeting for this work. So you have fiscal year 25 through 29. You can see on the first page, we start with a roof. So if a bond was approved in May, we would be looking at sometime during the fiscal year 25, which runs from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. So that's our window for fiscal year 25. We'd be looking at targeting the high school roof. Bob, do you want to talk about the sections? I know you're more familiar with the flat parts of the roof. If you want to just describe why we chose the high school.
So part of the reason we chose the high school is it is the worst offender. It's where we spend most of our money making repairs. but most of the issues are over non-academic areas. So the blue roofs that you can see from the road are over all the academic areas. That's called a standing seam roof. That roof is not in question at this point. It's just the flat membrane roofs over the gym, auditorium, cafeteria, some of the art wing down in that area. So it's just the flat roofs on the opposite side of the blue roofs. It does equal 75,000 square feet, but we thought it'd be easier to do over those types of areas throughout the school year than it would be over, say, an academic classroom. So in that, like I said, that if you looked at the report we passed out originally for the roofs, that roof shows the roof membrane is actually worn right down to the scrim, which is what holds it together in the middle. So that roof, oddly enough, is only 20 some odd years old. It's the worst roof in the district. So that's why we chose to move forward with that one first. It's the worst, and we have opportunity to get it done throughout the school year.
And one of the things you'll note is, as we go through the fiscal years, FY '25 has the smallest dollar amount items. I think it's a total of just around $9 million. And this one project represents about $7 million of it, simply because of the timing, right? A lot of the work we would do would have to happen over the summer. If a bond was approved in May or June, we don't have the time to get the architectural engineering in place. So as we go through that, we did try and balance projects out, but year one is lighter. So I won't go through, yes?
I mean, when you're talking about the roofs, are you saying that, well, when you're talking about a problem roof, are they leaking? Are they sliding, slipping?
We passed out and emailed out the roof reports. That roof is actually worn to the point where the top layer of the TPO membrane is gone. And you can see the fibers, what's called scrim, that holds the roof together. It's just gone.
Major leak problems?
We have major leak
In
problems.
school?
Yeah, so we're Band-Aiding all the time. And depending on what happens, I'm working on a big chunk replacement to get rid of some of that real bad area.
So moving on to the building envelope, the large issue we have is masonry at Hamilton Elementary. That's a project we'd like to do this summer, some way, somehow, simply because of the nature of it. Bob's team did go through and fill the cracks, but over time, water has seeped in, frozen, expanded, and the wall is in need of somewhat immediate repair. So we also tied that in with a couple other masonry projects at the school. Figure if we've got somebody there, take advantage of them being on site to do a couple smaller projects as well. Moving on to interior renovations, the auditorium railing on the balcony level is at a lower height. I know Bob and I joke whenever we have to walk by up there. I think, Bob, it goes to your knees.
Yeah, just about my knee.
So it's a safety issue that we want to address as soon as possible. Then we looked at security vestibules for Stony Lane, Quinnesset, Fishing Cove, Davisville Academy, Wickford Middle School, and Hamilton. I think this is Bob's number one project to get done. This next one is the Hamilton fire alarm.
Yes.
Bob, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
Stony Lane rooftop unit, we currently have one, so Stony Lane Gymnasium has 2 rooftop units. We are currently awaiting the delivery of one of them because one is completely dead and the other is on life support. So we will have one new one coming up here in the upcoming weeks. Bob, weeks?
Yes. Yep.
Weeks. And our plan would be to replace the other one rather quickly. And then the next section is ADA. We did tackle a number of ADA projects across the district in year one. The thought behind that is some of that is outdoor work and wouldn't necessarily impact teaching and learning directly. That one's a few pages, so I'll give it a moment for people to thumb through.
this represent all the ADA work that is required?
I'm not sure if it's all of it.
I think we tried to get all of it in there.
I
I'm
have a
not sure if
cheat sheet
we may
here.
have shifted something just because it was bathroom ADA, and the size of the project, we couldn't get it designed fast enough for the first year.
Let's see.
So if the exterior ADA stuff is all there, you may see some plumbing ADA
Yes.
things in other areas.
Okay. Makes sense.
What is the requirement for, elevators in schools now? Do they have to have them or don't have to, or? dock it in, or-
All of our schools that need them have them, whether it's a chairlift or an elevator. So we're not out of code ADA compliance for that. It's outdoor classrooms and paving and walkways and things like that that are affected. Granted, we've all seen the video of Whitford Middle School and the process of going from floor to floor there with chairlifts and everything, and elevators. So outside of that, the rest of the schools have adequate lifts and elevators to do what they need to do. Most of the things you'll read on here are about classrooms, exterior classrooms, the outdoor classrooms, or a ramp and a door. It's a lot of things like that.
No, elevators go up there.
Yeah, no,
That's fucking big money, big money. You know.
And in terms of ADA site work, we're targeting all in year one. But to Bob's point about plumbing and stuff, that required more
they're
design.
right,
So
yeah,
that's-
all the ADA projects.
Bob, there's a ton of work on water coolers in all these various schools. Is there a lot of wear and tear on these?
No, so it's upgrading them to bottle fills.
Okay, all right.
Some schools have them because we did major projects, so the state law says if we do work in any type of major plumbing work in a building, we have to add the water bottle fills.
Okay,
And we have not done that in many of the schools because we haven't had large projects there yet. So we've incorporated that into this plan so that every school will become equal and have the amount of, there are actually water fountains with a bottle fill station built in. And so that way all schools are equal and have exactly what they need.
so it's not a wear and tear thing?
No, it's not a wear and tear thing.
All right.
No,
All right.
I mean, some of them are very old, don't get me wrong, some are original to building. But we need to add these bottle fills for, I would say, equity across the district and for the kids to have fresh, clean drinking water every day.
And not have to try and do
Yeah.
the angle. Good for math, right? Trying to find the angle which
Yeah.
to fill the
Or
bottom.
someone's in their mouth on it.
Yeah.
Just one other thing, the roof, do we have, I may have asked this before, I apologize. What is the life expectancy on the new?
So what we've budgeted for is a 40-year roof. We don't have to put a 40-year roof on. We could put a 25-year roof on and save money. We've talked about this in other meetings. But what we budgeted for and the roof reports that we did and all of the information we got was based on a Garland roof, which is top of the line, best of the best.
And is it fair to say the reason that we're doing this now is because they didn't put top of the line in when they did the school?
It wasn't available back in those days.
It wasn't.
Back in those days, a 20-year roof was really what was out there.
That was the maximum?
Yeah.
Okay.
20 to 25 years were the max warranties back in those days. Now, there's 40s, 50s. These companies are coming out with better and better product every year. So in 2 years, there could be even better product. I don't know. But we're looking at Garland, which is in the industry. Dr. Dwyer had it done over in Jamestown. He had one of his roofs done, right, with Garland?
We had both schools were done at Garland.
So, I
It
mean,
just, if you're gonna do it, and if you are able to, it gives you more life expectancy to your building.
I would think so.
and they come out yearly and do inspections and walk the roofs and make sure that everything's in good shape so that they're not doing warranty work. They're very proactive, which I like.
Okay.
And that's all included in the price?
Yep.
So the next section that we jumped into a little bit is the plumbing. As Bob mentioned, a bunch of this work is removing traditional water fountains and upgrading them to bottle filling stations, as well as some code compliance projects. We put generators in year one simply based off of our last experience with the generator, where it took between 2 and 2.5 years for it to actually come in. So we wanted to start that process early on. So while the generator would hopefully be installed in year one, we at least wanted to start the clock on those.
We did learn. That the one at the D building took 2 years, so.
And then site work is removing and adding fencing around Hamilton Elementary School. So that total for year one, or for FY '25, is $9,180,810.
So Meg, I know this question's been asked before, and it's been answered before, and I appreciate that, but I just want to make sure I understand it right. So this new CIP includes improvements to WMS and DMS? Which
Correct.
makes sense. So if in year one, we did some of these improvements at WMS and DMS, and we got reimbursement, and then in 2027, we decided that we were going to close WMS or rebuild a new school or whatnot, how does that affect the fact that we were reimbursed?
So RIDE would stop paying the reimbursement on that part of the project. So it's an annual reimbursement, it's not a bulk.
So they would calculate what the portion of that debt is, however we got reimbursed. So let's say that there's a lot of WMS in here, so just, let's say there's 500,000 in year one. And you paid for that with the town's $500,000 capital budget. We gave you the 500,000, you paid it. The next year, we would get reimbursed, the next year. And then in 2027, you knocked down WMS and you built a brand new middle school in front. Do we have to give the money back?
So you would not give the money back, but if there are any, so depending on the size of the project, they don't always, so for middle school, they pay you out over a number of years.
Even if we paid it up in one shot? I didn't think that's the way it worked, but you would know better than me.
So you're saying a single payment?
Single payment. So that means we're gonna get single reimbursement the next year.
Let me get back to you, because I do believe somewhere in there's still a dollar amount. I don't think any of the projects in year one would exceed that dollar amount, but I want to make sure I give you the most accurate.
And I just think it's important for us to know that. Okay.
If the housing aid is being paid over so many years,
Right.
they'll just stop those payments.
Right, so
it's not that we pay back, we just don't get
Gotcha.
that money.
So if it's a bond, or if it's a loan, or if it's a lease, or it's something you pay over years, they wouldn't go back to what you paid. You wouldn't get reimbursement on the future payments.
Right.
But if it was paid lump sum, we don't know what
We
would
don't know,
happen.
we'd have to find out.
Because these would pretty much be paid lump sum unless they were financed with a bond. And if they're financed with a bond, there's a chance that the middle school's in that bond, so that would be moved. So, okay. I'm thinking of worst case scenario, is that either we, for whatever reason, we don't put a bond in 2024, or we put a bond in 2024 and it fails. And then in 2026, 2027, the appetite is there, we do whatever is done, do they come back and get that money? That's right,
And if there's no bond, most of this is not gonna happen. That's why I said, our plan B,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a much smaller capital improvement plan of around maybe 500,000 a year.
That's a good point.
Which is gonna be
So the
maybe
first
one
two,
project. or
yeah,
two
the
projects.
first two projects are going to be Hamilton. So the first chunk of money is the Hamilton fire alarm, probably followed by the Hamilton CMU
Okay.
masonry.
But we do know that you have to consider that when if we have an influx of cash, you'd have to consider whether you make that WMS or DMS investment, because there's a chance that it may get hurt in the future.
Correct.
Okay, good, thanks.
And if there's a decision that, they're gonna build a new school in 2 years, then we're gonna,
Kick that,
we're not gonna start
Yeah.
putting all these upgrades into the
makes
building.
sense.
So I'll take that transition to move on to year two, FY '26. The roofs we're looking at are Hamilton and Wickford. And those two roofs total just under $10.5 million.
So it should be pointed out that if by some chance, and I say this for what Mary was saying about the public, for some chance if we decide not to go forward with middle schools, we know that we have to make at the very least a $6 million investment in the roof at Wickford Hill.
And there's windows coming up
I'm
in the
sure,
next section.
I'm sure.
Yep.
So what you're gonna see in this plan, it's a lot of building envelope. Right? We're not proposing any educational enhancements inside Wickford Middle School. We're just looking at what do we need to do right now in order to keep it open and functioning as a school. if we're not doing anything else with it at this point.
And if we decide to move forward with a bond question in 2024, and we know this by the time we submit our stage 2, I would assume we then amend our stage 2. And we pull all this WMS and VMS out. Okay.
Or what we do, there's another option, is we, within our submittal of the stage 2, it's the renovations are in there along with the building of a new school. Because if it doesn't go through,
Yep.
we still want to make sure we have.
But doesn't
that
that affect the 50% rule?
It would,
We
depending on what we end up doing.
would probably have to end up resubmitting at some point.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
It may be the same information, just with updated cost estimates.
Yep.
So after the roofs are windows and doors, and the first, second, third, and next half of the next page are all Wickford windows. I apologize, but this is just how the architects broke it out because they did different sizing. So you're looking at $2.9 million worth of windows at Wickford Middle School. There's one building envelope, I know windows are related to building envelope, but as categorized, there's one smaller project that are tied to the windows. So interior renovations, we would be looking at replacing the gym partition and looking at some cracks at Wickford Middle School, as well as this would be our first media center. We would look at revamping the media center at Wickford Middle School. At Quinnesset, we would look at adding walls to separate those classrooms. Many of you know Quinnesset is an open classroom building, so we would tackle adding walls and also a media center while we were doing that. So the interior renovations at both Wickford and Quinnesset would total $8.6 million.
I think we also want to note too that that line A30 for Quinnesset, provide and install wall classrooms, that's including electric HVAC, right?
Yes.
So that number of 6.9 million, it's not just building new walls, it's also including the HVAC,
Safety,
fire alarm,
yep.
electric.
So moving along to HVAC, I know we timed the HVAC in Wickford roof to happen at the same time because of the number of penetrations. So rather than putting a new roof on Wickford and then doing HVAC repairs and putting new penetrations into a new roof, we timed them together. So you'll see a number of Wickford HVAC projects, as well as high school HVAC projects. And then one DMS HVAC project. So the total in year 2 for HVAC is just over $6.1 million. When we get to electrical, looking at various upgrades to panel boards at Wickford, Forest Park, Hamilton, and Fishing Cove. Those total about $250,000. So this next section, plumbing, and this is starting to address some of our ADA plumbing issues at Fishing Cove, Forest Park, in Hamilton. So the plumbing upgrades are come out to about $375,000. And then finally, generators at the last 3 schools, bringing the total dollar amount for FY '26 to $29,208,709. Any questions or comments on FY '26?
It's also important to note that this includes escalation from the costs that we received over the past year with the facility assessment. So each year, you'll see that there's an increase from the year that we received the assessment.
So each year, to piggyback, is 5%, so we built 5% into each year. FY '27 roofs, we're looking at Forest Park and Quinnesset. Just over 6.4 million for those two roofs. And then for interior upgrades, Whitford Middle School replacement of the rubber gym floor, and then installing walls and a media center at Stony Lane Elementary. Those projects total 9.6 million, with the majority of that being the Stony Lane walls and media center.
With the media center at Stony Lane and Quinnesset, are those adding on to the building, or are those improving the media center that's there?
Those are improving the areas that are there.
Okay.
Mike, wouldn't that, I believe that's included, or some of that is included as we build, if we did the walled classrooms, right, the media center walls would become part of the process
Yes.
of creating all this, and then it would be the other half of it would be upgrading inside and doing this.
So these are one of the
Make
few
it state of the
educational
art.
right. These are the media centers are one of the few educational enhancements that we have. Granted, the walls are also educational enhancements, but they also provide safety and security as well. HVAC in this year we tackle HVAC projects at DMS, the high school, Quinnesset, and Fishing Cove. HVAC projects total just over 5.5 million, bringing the FY '27 total to $21,652,775. Any questions or comments on FY '27? In FY '28, we're looking at Fishing Cove and DA for roofs, totaling just under $7 million. And then moving on to some window work at Hamilton Elementary School, totaling just under $500,000.
Can you explain me on the windows? Are these windows windows you can open, or all these windows are pretty much, you need air conditioning, they don't open? I know other schools, I know, like basically, in the old days, you could lift up a window and get air. Now, a lot of the windows, you can't open them, right?
Well, Hamilton has windows that are just old. So it's not necessarily for fresh air, if that's what you're asking. So the school has fresh air. Whitford Middle School is the only one that does not have ventilation in the building. Doesn't have fresh air coming in or exhausting going out. All the other schools have that. Hamilton windows are just old, and some are not operable, some are operable. They're the old awning style windows. It's just age. Original to the main original portion of the building.
So the windows you're putting in,
They would be all operational. They're not going to be double hung. Per se, it would be by design at this point. We just don't know until we get there. What's there now is 2 panes of glass and an operable awning window that opens. So in the future, maybe we went to a different style. I don't know. We'd have to address that one.
no, if you just have windows that couldn't open, then you'd have to have air conditioning. That would be a main concern.
Yeah.
You
So
couldn't get air through your windows, or.
well, the call out for the windows here is to replace existing windows from when the building was built.
And you build those.
And then in the next fiscal year, we do tackle HVAC system to replace existing window AC units at Hamilton. So we've got some building envelope work at Fishing Cove, Quinnesset, Fishing Cove and Quinnesset. It is smaller work, roughly $11,000. Interior renovations. We've got some work in the locker room, restrooms, girls' locker room restrooms, and the gymnasium lobby at Wickford Middle School. We've got some flooring work at North Kingstown High School. My apologies. Stony Lane, replacing that gym partition. Fishing Cove, I know when people think about our open schools, people traditionally think of Stony Lane and Quinnesset, but Fishing Cove also has a section of open classrooms. So in year 4, we would tackle those walls as well as a media center at Fishing Cove. And then at Forest Park, we're looking at an addition. Forest Park does not have a gymnasium, so we're looking at an addition of a gymnasium and media center. So I know, and Dr. Duver, I may let you speak more to this, but I know by adding a media center and gymnasium, it would actually create more classroom space at Forest Park, as the media center at Forest Park currently sits in a classroom. So right now, I know every year Dr. Duver has to make decisions on, we can only have 2 4th grades, let's say, at Forest Park. So if we have the need for there to be 3, we have to start having kids go to other schools. This would give another classroom to open up space.
For those that are familiar with Forest Park, it has a multi-purpose room that's used for the gym and the cafeteria. So we're looking at, if we're going to be renovating the schools, making sure all the schools have that opportunity, the equity of having a separate gymnasium, separate cafeteria. So that recommendation is on here for Forest Park as well as Fishing Cove. And at Forest Park, the media center is actually in a classroom. It's a very small library. It's really not functional if anyone ever went in there to look at it in comparison to the other media centers that we have across the district. That would open up a classroom. In addition, if you're building a gym and a media center, we can also, within that space, look at some small office spaces that would provide spaces for our interventionists, resource teachers, or other specialists. And that way, classrooms that are being shared right now by 2 or 3 interventionists, special educators, reading specialists could also become classrooms. We're looking at how do we have more space in the elementary schools, so that way we can, eventually we need to look at doing a shift. We know that Hamilton is lower capacity, we know Forest Park's lower capacity, and Fishing Cove is in some grade levels. So we're looking at where we can open up more classroom spaces across the district as well.
So where is the Fishing Cove Gymnasium cost? I don't see.
That's
that.
in year 5.
Next year,
Yep.
okay.
So Forest Park is in year 4, Fishing Cove is in year 5. You'll notice they're both estimated for about the same size, but there's a cost escalation. I think it's $6,250,000 in year 5. Oh, yeah, we'll be getting that in just a few minutes. Questions on that before we move on to HVAC? We'll stay in FY28. HVAC, we've got quite a bit of HVAC work happening at Stony Lane in year 4, as well as DMS, Forest Park, and DA. HVAC work in year 4 totals about $5.7 million. Bob, this next one is your favorite one, so I'm gonna let you talk about this. Building management systems. Go ahead, Bob.
So we put it in year 4, but I'm also working with the Rhode Island Energy on energy audits of all of our buildings, and building a project through Rhode Island Energy to do BMS in all of our buildings. The high school has Niagara, which is a really, it's a great tool for us for all of our HVACs, and we'd like to get the whole district on that same platform, so that one computer or any computer, any of our technicians, myself or Mike, we could go in and see what's going on in the building. We could actually turn lights on and off. We could check heats and turn heats on and off, program everything the way we want it, like having a programmable thermostat at your home. We have one particular director that said, can't we just put in a thermostat? And it would be great if we could, but some of our buildings are pneumatic, so the thermostats are actually operated with air. Some of the stuff is just old and antiquated, but I'm working with Rhode Island Energy on this, with building audits and putting a large project together for the whole entire district. And then hopefully I'll have all of that done before year 4, and we'll have a better picture of all of our needs and what we're gonna use for equipment.
And there could also be some incentives.
Oh, lots of incentives. Hence why I'm doing it through Rhode Island Energy. They're giving a lot more money per point, which anything you connect to the BMS system, a fan, an HVAC unit, they give you an amount of money. It used to be $300, I think it's now $400 a point. So it seems to get better every year with on the gas side. So hopefully it'll get better and better and better as we build this project.
So the BMS estimate we have is just over $6 million. However, that doesn't include any potential incentives
Correct.
from Rhode Island Energy. Also, we would imagine that there would be cost savings as well in terms of energy usage.
Yes,
So that's not factored into this cost.
definitely energy savings, right? Right now, the heat's on October 15th, and it's just on. We don't have a lot, we have a system that I added in now. It's just a new tool that kind of has an outdoor air temp sensor, so it'll actually shut the heat down if it's a really warm day. But we couldn't put it in every building because of the types of systems in some of the buildings. So it's only in a handful of buildings, but it is helping. We monitor it. I get an email every month that tells me what's working and what's not working.
What about HVAC equipment?
That's all part, it would all be tied in.
No, I understand, but I mean, with Rhode Island Energy incentive, are they giving the incentive for HVAC equipment?
So anything we do with HVAC will go through Rhode Island Energy for incentive. Yeah, any of the units, any of the rooftop stuff, even the big project at Wickford Middle School, if we were to move forward with that, that would all go through Rhode Island Energy for incentives.
And then the last item for FY28 is doing some electrical work at DA with their panel boards. So the year 4 total is just under $32 million. So it's $31,736,112. And then year 5, and actually I see one error on here. Year 5 would be the Stony Lane roof. There's one Hamilton item that didn't copy over correctly, so I'm gonna fix that. My apologies, I didn't catch it. Because Hamilton roof is happening in a previous year, so this item would be tied to it. There's no dollar cost associated with it, because this is just a reference, but I apologize for it not being in the right place.
So it just needs to move to a different.
It just
Can I
needs to-
move to the year that Hamilton.
Yes, yep. So the Stony Lane roof in 2029 is estimated at $4.8 million. Looking at windows and doors at Stony Lane and Quid and Fishing Cove, DA as well, and then Forest Park doing some window gasket work. So the year 5 total for windows and doors is just under $3 million, $2,930,125. For building envelope work, we've got masonry work happening at Fishing Cove, Stony Lane, and Forest Park.
And I will add, we would typically bulk that together in 1 year and get masons to come and get all of that done at once. The problem is Hamilton is so bad, it needs to be done in 25. It's a brick veneer, a block veneer over a block building. So it's a layer of block that builds the building, and then there's a layer of block that's a veneer on the outside. I can almost call it decorative. Well, that veneer is all, in the courtyard, it's all falling in. It's all open with, literally there's a space I could stick my hand in. We filled that since to make repairs to get us through winters. But that's why we separated it and did some further out in Hamilton so soon. The things that we thought were most important to be done right away are in the first year. and then we move the rest out. Or typically, we would try and bulk it to get it all done at once.
So year 5, looking at more interior renovations, carpeting in the auditorium, first floor office areas, counseling resource rooms at the high school, the vinyl base that goes along with the carpeting, refinishing the flooring on the auditorium stage. It has a wood floor, so resurfacing that. High school reupholstering the seats, doing repairs to seats in the high school auditorium. Hamilton carpeting throughout the building, as well as the gym partition, the vinyl bases that's tied to the carpeting. DMS replacing acoustical ceiling tiles, doing the media centers at Hamilton, DMS, and then the Fishing Cove Media Center and Gymnasium. Interior renovations for year 5 come in at just over $9.4 million.
And you said that would be, you're shooting for FY '29.
FY '29, yep.
Just, I've sat in the seats so long enough where I was like, okay.
Is the Fishing Cove Media Center in '29 the same as the Fishing Cove 21st Learning Center in '28, or partially the same?
Yes, so, with the addition, so some of that cost, maybe, as Bob was saying, some of that cost is tied to the building of the walls, but some of it is for educational enhancements. So if the addition was gonna move forward, we would make a decision at that point if we are going to do the educational enhancements to the media center, or save that 1 year for the new structure.
Mike, was this plan put out based on spreading out funding, or was it based on spreading out jobs due to a number of different reasons, of course? I mean, so I guess the question that I'm leading to, it's a leading question, is that if a bond was passed and we had access to a lump sum of money up front, would you still have this 5-year plan, or would some of these things be front-loaded?
We would probably still look at this 5-year plan, simply because with the summer being 8 weeks, our buildings still being used for summer school, summer activities. It would be tough for us to do every project in a school in one summer. So we would still have to look at spacing them out. There wouldn't be a reason why we couldn't look at it, but we're also, like, to your point, if we had all the money up front, we might look at restructuring some things, how it makes sense, but this is also planning, like, if we were to get this $20 million, each year over 5 years.
So for example, there's 2 questions here. For example, there's a number of schools that have open classrooms. Mm-hmm. If we had funding, would you still want to do one school per year, or would you want to equalize them and just do it all in 1 year?
So we did talk about that. Part of it was also workload management. Mm-hmm. If we could find a company that could come in and do 3 schools in 6 weeks, yeah. I think we would certainly entertain that.
Okay. And then the other question is, and the superintendent may know this, when it comes to RIDE, if you have a bond passed, is there a time limit as to when that project has to be done, when you have to use that bond money?
So the bond money would be set to the 5-year plan. Okay. And so you have that time frame within RIDE of how long they're giving you to complete the work. And that's why they say you have to have 50% of the work completed before the end of your time frame on your application. Okay. So we would space this out to be completed during that time. But just to kind of go back with what Mike was saying, a lot of this has to do with timing. So we prioritize these projects based on the need of the building and based on what we believe other needs are for educational enhancements, but it's timing. We want to make sure we can open up the buildings on time. We don't want to do, for example, the walls, take Stony Lane, Quidnesset, and Fishing Cove and do all that work at the same time, unless we know and there's a guarantee that we have enough contractors that can come out and do that work. They can get all the materials and supplies to do the work, and then we're not dealing with a problem or a challenge where it's coming now end of August and work's not done and now we can't open the buildings. Similar with the roofs. We just want to pace it out so that way the work can get done, because the prime time is summertime for most of this work, because it's going to interrupt learning and you have a lot of, you got to move equipment and stuff that's within the building is, that's a disruption. So we really are looking at pacing this up because we don't want to run into a problem where can't open buildings or work has to be done during the school year. Because then you're moving and shifting people. Example that happened to me in Jamestown, windows and everything weren't in the middle school and the work was happening partway through the school year. We had to shift classrooms around in order to get the work done. And it's not ideal, so we don't want to run into a problem like that.
And that's why I asked if it was funding or for something else, because I'm thinking, again, workload of contractors, how much can you do internally as far as getting the schools ready? At the same time, if there's a way to move them up, of course we would. And then we'll also have to make note of, I know there are federal rules as far as our expenditures of money. So, and I don't know exactly what they are. I'll talk about financial advisor, but we hit this wall before where if we get a bond, that has to be spent over so much time. Because we have arbitrage rules where we can't make interest on that money. And so there's just, but we can go over all that. Okay, good. Just so I know when I'm talking to Steve Messer and the TFM, exactly, is there a chance that we can move some of these projects up? If not, at least I know that, so now we gotta finagle, okay, what do we do with this money, because you can't invest it and whatnot, so.
Yeah, and particularly, I mean, the two additions are those are bigger projects. Those could certainly be looked at moving up, because those would take years to, or at least a year or two to do. Fire alarm Forest Park, we have in year 5. We have the balance of the HVAC work spread across DMS, the high school, Hamilton, and Fishing Cove. Those total just under $2.5 million. Some panel board electrical work at DMS, estimated at $68,000. Wickford Middle School is currently using a classroom that was once a bathroom, so this would be reestablishing that classroom into a bathroom. And then some site work, lighting at the high school, and providing a turnaround at Forest Park so that cars don't get trapped. I must have skipped over it, but did somebody see we had a turnaround in Hamilton?
It's on the last page on the backside.
Oh, okay, thank you. And there's also, if you go to the last page on the backside, there's a turnaround cul-de-sac at Hamilton Elementary. So both at Hamilton and Forest Park, when you go down the side of the building, there's no real space to turn around. If cars are parked, you end up having to do a 42-point turn, depending on the size of your vehicle. So this would be establishing a better traffic flow. So the total for year FY29 is $20,628,250. And the 5-year total, if everything was completed and completed in the schedule as outlined, is $112 million. It's up here on the board. I see people trying to write it down. $112,406,656.
That's what I got.
I heard there was supposed to be some kind of renovation made to all the schools, as you enter the schools. Is that something that's state mandated, or is that something we can do ourselves, or?
Are you talking
we have to do
about
ourselves?
security vestibules?
Yeah, the security.
Yeah, those are projects that we would do.
We do on ourselves?
Yep.
But something that has to be done quickly, or?
It's something we'd want to do as soon as possible. Yep.
Do you have a price for, just for Wickford Middle School and just for Davis Middle School for their projects?
Not in front of me, but if you give me a minute, I think I have that.
The previous total for capital improvement without the middle school was 72 million. So 50 million would be, is that?
So
not
Yeah,
50,
we took a few things out.
Okay, that was,
And we
Yeah,
added
there's other things
gyms.
added in, like the gyms and the
So,
got it.
media
So
centers and the water
that's-
fountain.
okay, can't do that.
And then there's escalation. That number didn't have escalation necessarily built
Okay.
in.
When the roofs are redone, will they be solar ready if we decided to go that route?
so we could add solar to them. But if we're doing that, we want to have that conversation with
Right.
the vendors that are putting the roofs on.
And have structural engineers come and look
Right,
at
that's-
the structures and
yeah.
make sure that they're safe to put
Right.
solar panels on it. There's a lot of work, pre-work to do for a solar panel,
Right.
a solar array.
And I know you know this, but we've had some issues where if you do solar, and obviously I think we're all excited about something like that, and you go with these better roofs, the life of solar is 25 years, the roof is 40.
Right,
So what do you do with the panels after 25 years?
right.
So that's an issue.
And I don't know if lighting, if it's an option, but behind Davisville, the entrance that is used for the basketball games, it's really dark back there. Just put that on the, okay.
Because I could potentially have like just full pop, 2 LEDs on the side of the building. and
Just
one-
wondering, that seems like a small project.
Yeah, that's
that
easy for
Doesn't
me.
need to go into
Yeah, if someone
capital,
says,
you know, 5-year plan.
It's a good point, isn't it?
So for Wickford, without escalation, so I have it sortable but on a different sheet with, and it's not broken out. Without escalation, it's $15,784,335. I'll read it out again, 15784,335. Can you read out one more time? Okay. And DMS. DMS without escalation, $7,432,400, 7432400.
So just to explain something you just said, if you took Wickford and DMS out, we wouldn't necessarily take the 112, 406, 650 and subtract those two numbers.
No.
Because escalation's in it.
Correct. What
So
you
with
could,
escalation-
what you could take it off of is this 97 million. This 97 does not have escalation. This is the sum of the projects.
And it's what, 23 million, so 23.1, 23.2. Okay.
Any questions from,
There's some of the windows that you guys are replacing on the buildings. Are there any schools where any hazard material could be related to the windows that you guys are removing?
absolutely.
Is that being considered?
Yes.
into the-
It was considered by the architects and engineers as they did their surveys of the building. Yeah, I would assume Wickford Middle School in the Cork, we're gonna see something. But I talked to Rouse about that originally, and he said that they factored that into the pricing.
any comments, anything strike you regarding what we put together as far as the work for each year? Is there anything that was discussed in previous committee meetings that you didn't see in this plan?
I have to bring it up because it was a question, but the pre-K bathrooms at Fishing Cove for 780,000 was not in here. Did you?
Yeah, we pulled it out because we're questioning
Okay.
the cost
All right,
and
yeah.
need. Yeah.
And again, I think this, this was,
I think it was
This is a-
778,000.
this is an exceptional report, very, very informative, very helpful, mapped out. I mean, really, Ralston, all of you did a great job. I guess my own, as a building committee member, my only suggestion would be that, and you've already answered it, but if, just for the record, if there's any way, if we were able to get a lump sum of money, if there is any way to somehow, some way, handle as many schools as possible when it comes to the open classrooms, I just think that's, it would be a good step, rather than pick and choose which schools. Because you're affecting an entire, when you go 29, you're affecting the entire generation of students. So if there's any way we can move that up, I think, and I understand, just the bottom line is that it's gonna be tough to do because there's only so many contractors that do it. And so, you know, if you can't have 3 different contracts, your workload, you can't be emptying out 3 different schools. I mean, I completely understand. But if you had this lump sum of money and this wasn't based just on funding, if there's any way to move that up, I would consider that, like you've done with the vestibules. They're all in 1 year. I think that was, you know, so that's, other than that, this is very informative, so thank you.
And we did have more, when we first laid this out, we had more in year 1, and then we started thinking, if we don't know until May or June, we're not getting anything. And some of these projects are gonna take, particularly the walls, they are gonna take a bit more A&E work to.
I can imagine.
So, that's why we started in year 2. We would love to have started them in year 1.
I know, the year 2, I'm just saying that the year 2 is completely.
Do more than 1 year.
Is that rather than, was it 3 schools, rather than year 2, 4, and 5, if we could do 2, 3, and 4, or 2 and 2, and 1 and 3, whatever if the money's available and you can pull it off, I would just say that should be the focus of this committee too, because I'm assuming educationally, that has to be a priority, I'm assuming.
And we also looked at the needs of the building.
And security.
That's what, Vanessa was on that first.
Yes.
And I think it also comes down to time, right? Where is the state at that time? How many other school districts are doing major projects, right? There's only maybe 8 real decent, and I'd say 5 of them are great, contractors that do schoolwork.
Yeah.
And so that becomes an issue. The workforce of people that have to do work for the general contractors, the people like Wonderwall who do steel stud and sheetrock and acoustical sealing. There's only so many companies. So if we try to do all 4 at once, it's a real balance, and you're gonna have a real good GC or 2 real good GCs to balance those people going from building to building to get it done on time.
That makes sense, definitely makes sense, absolutely.
So this is going to school committee. There's a school committee meeting on the 5th. Thank you. I think the date's next week, on the 5th. And that's up for discussion and a vote for approval, and then it'll go to the audit committee on December 14th.
Not one.
Asset management, audit committee's far now. Asset management on December 14th. So, thank you. The next agenda item is discussion of spring school bonds. We put on here potential options, timeline, state reimbursement. That way, if there's any conversation, discussion, we can talk about it here at this meeting. I will just kind of summarize. It was on the agenda at the last school committee meeting. School committee members, if either of you want to jump in. Just a lot of the conversation was around the survey to get input from the community regarding the last bond and approval of that bond and work to be completed. So the school committee did put together a survey that was sent out last week. It'll be in the paper. We didn't have it in with the deadline last week because of Thanksgiving. So it will be in the papers this Thursday. It's also on our social media account, Facebook account, and that's open for the next few weeks. I'm trying to remember the date that it closes. That closes, it might be
December 14th.
14th, thank you. December 14th it closes. And then that, all the information we gather from the survey will be analyzed, and that will get shared out. We're hoping we get some good information from the community regarding just kind of input to us in regarding what the community is looking for as far as new middle schools, renovations towards the buildings. Either of you want to add anything else from the meeting from last week? Okay.
So I didn't watch the meeting. So what did you guys talk about in terms of like making sure like that somebody didn't take the survey 5 times or is that a problem?
So it's an anonymous survey. We would have had to have people have a Google, it's through Google Forms, so they would have had to have a Google account. They would have had to sign in with their email address. It would not have been anonymous if we were to do that. So we're trusting the community. Someone could take it more than once. There's nothing we can do about that. But that information will be provided, and we'll go through and analyze what's there.
And so I also watched the meeting, and I do have a question, because I thought the original intent was a potential multiple choice, and then the survey that I saw was you actually answered the question, and I'm thinking that has to be one heck of a challenge to tabulate. So how do you tabulate, let's say 400 people, again, you may have the answer, but let's say, so if it was, do you want 2 middle schools or 1? And it's pretty easy to tabulate that, but now it's, so what do you think about future middle schools? You know, well, I think that we need a field, and I think we need 2, and how do you possibly tabulate a narrative? I wasn't sure what your game plan was. That's going to be one heck of a challenge. But, that was just a comment. Okay,
I think in the absence of spending an enormous amount of money on a highly professional polling company, we are not going to get those answers. And I don't want to be a sad sack, but I don't think this community would tolerate spending money on something like that. So we're in a difficult situation. We have 2 schools that are not in great shape. One is better than the other, but you know, Wickford is terrible. Anybody who's been through there would agree with that. The community said no. We've got to figure out when. It's not a question of, you know, whether we're going to fix it. It's when and how are we going to go about doing that. Hopefully, we'll get some insight from the effort that, you know, has been made to try and solicit information from members of the community.
I think it will be a challenge, and just to go back to your question, it'll be a challenge because it is all open-ended questions versus multiple choice, where Google Analytics does that for you. It gives you those numbers. So it will be a challenge to go through. I know there are a few school committee members that offered to go back and to analyze it. Jen Lima was one of them, to take that data and break it down to be able to bring it back to the committee to review. But it will be a time-consuming process.
And please don't take this wrong, but no, really, I didn't know that, and so in an effort to sell this to the public, and I would say the same thing if it was the town doing it. So this isn't disparaging to the school. You may want someone independently to tabulate that, because so let's say I wanted to build a public safety complex. So I'll feel better doing it this way. And let's say that people gave a survey, and I had my chiefs tabulate the narrative. The people are going to look at that and say, you know, don't you think there's a little vested interest in that? And so if there's a way for you to consider, understanding the cost, having someone independent do that, I would think about that. And again, I'll hold it, the town to the same standard. If it was a public safety complex, I think the public would say, wait a minute, why are the chiefs tabulating that? Because it's not 4 A's, 3 B's, 7 C's, it's a narrative, and you're taking someone's opinion and you're telling them your opinion of their opinion. And so you may want to bring in someone independent. I didn't know that, but that's your call. I just worry about you going through all this effort, having some great data, and someone challenges the actual data, which is unfair, and it's not fair to all of you. You're going to put all that work in, and it's just, you know, it's unfair that could happen. If you had someone independent, you may want to consider that, but I'll leave that at that. So.
And I think the other thing we have to think about is timing. Stage 2 is due on February 15th, so we're going to need some guidance to start putting that package together.
No doubt about it.
As well as costs associated with putting that package together, because there are architectural drawings that are required for that submission.
For everything, even if it's this capital plan we're submitting, we need schematic designs on all of these projects.
I think going forward, and I'm speaking only for myself, is Mary still here? Yeah, okay. We have the information. I mean, and there was a real effort by Dr. Duba, Dr. Earl, and I think by this community to try and convey that information. It did not get out there the way that it should. I think we need professional communications. We need an organization that can actually step in and help, that can see this community and convey this information to folks. Because despite our best efforts, I don't think that happened. So, you know, I'm frustrated by it. I'm frustrated by misinformation. I still believe there are people in this community who voted against the bond who would vote for a school if given the opportunity and had the right. And And maybe just the information we have, but it has to be presented better. It's astounding to me that there were people right up until the day of the election who were saying, why not 2 schools? Why haven't you considered renovation? And, you know, we're all tearing our hair out saying we have. But that didn't get out there. And it's unfortunate. But
And I think I have I think I can answer some of that, because I was telling Adam about this situation. People question, why not renovate versus new? First of all, it is a code, it's a building code issue, and that was never explained to the people. When you do a renovation, you can deal with minor code compliance. That reduces the cost of the remodel. When you go over certain value, now becomes forcible that you have to go with a full building code. That means that you go from a let's say $50,000 remodel to $150,000 new construction. And that was never explained and never justified why we are going from remodel to new. Why it wasn't explained that the remodel is not worth it versus the new construction? What do you mean? Am I wrong?
So to Dante's point, if say Whitford Middle School is worth $8 million, if we spend $7 million to do this renovation, we've got to bring it to full code of today's code. Anything over 50% of the value of the building and property is the number. So if you go, if it's 10 million and we spend 5.5 million, we got to bring it up to full today's code, or whatever code it is that when we do the work. So it is a big undertaking if you hit that milestone.
And that was never brought up to that level. That's why people keep asking or questioning why we don't remodel. We don't remodel because the remodel of the Whitford Middle School in this case will cost more than the 50% allowable, and that will bring a full code compliance, and you're forced to actually build a much better situation. I'm gonna give you a better example. We did the remodel of the Town Beach restaurants, and we had to go into an appraisal because if we didn't, we needed to raise the structure above the flood level plain. So we brought an appraisal. The appraisal justified that we were not over 50%, so all we were doing is just refinishing the bathrooms, the Town Beach restaurant. If that wasn't the case, we needed to have, like a Narragansett did, that they had to lift the whole pavilion and all that stuff. And the same thing happened with the Old Town House, or the old meeting house, if you recall.
Same thing.
Same thing.
It was much easier with the new high school because $25 million worth of for the old high school was $25 million worth of problem. And for $35 million, you could.
But the difference is,
much easier.
you balance it off in a much better
For
situation.
$25 million, you're gonna get a Band-Aid. For $35 million, you're gonna get
Brand new.
a Cadillac or whatever.
Correct.
As far as timelines and state reimbursement or anything that we
So,
want.
yeah, so timelines, we'll get the information back, the survey back on December 14th. School committee needs to have a decision made as far as what we would want the bond question to be to get to town council for approval before the first meeting of January.
And so the council had voted, the council had voted to ask the General Assembly to extend the reimbursement to December 31st.
Okay.
So that would change your timing a little bit, but I'm not sure when we would get an answer from them on that. So
Yeah.
I've talked to the Senate President, talked to the Speaker, and
December 31st of 2024.
yes,
Instead of
yeah,
June 30th.
instead of June 30th. And I've
there's no
talked to both of
guarantee
them.
that they'll do it
No.
at this point.
No, there isn't.
No, there is not. There is not. So, and the question is, even if they were to do it, how they have to do it fast for us, because you have a February 15th stage 2. We're gonna get the question on the ballot, so it has to happen relatively fast.
Yeah, I would think we probably need to proceed like it's not gonna happen.
Right.
And if it does,
Yeah.
then that's
That's a
good.
good point.
That's what happened, in the spring, when it got moved, so.
That's a good point. And we're not the only community that wants it, so that helps.
How many others are there?
South Kingstown, and I'm hearing through the grapevine, which would be very helpful, I'm gonna call the mayor tomorrow, they're Providence. And that would be a game changer because of the number of individuals they have serving at the State House as part of the delegation. So I heard that through the grapevine, so I'm gonna call the mayor tomorrow.
And then as far as state reimbursement, we know that our town has the 35% reimbursement rate, so there's that. The incentives expire in June unless there is the extension, but we know we cannot count on that. I agree with you that if Providence is also
Very helpful.
advocating for that, that can make a huge difference for
Sure.
how the General Assembly reacts to that. But as far as any reimbursements, if we're looking to try to be able to receive the incentives, we want to make sure that we can have another vote in May. But I also believe that whatever we put forward, we need to make sure that it's something that's going to be acceptable by our community. Any other comments?
I have
Or?
a question. So I guess what's the role of this group, I guess, moving forward? It sounds like a lot's in the school committee and town council's hands. I guess.
So if there are any recommendations to bring forward to the school committee as far as, next steps of renovations, building a new middle school, what those options are, we can discuss that now if anyone has some really strong opinions or, professional, your own professional experience to bring forward. It's important to share that now so we have that before our next school committee meeting.
I guess I think it's really important, because I feel like this may have gotten lost in the bond, is the numbers we just discussed tonight. How much of the money just goes to maintaining the other schools? And that's, whatever you think about a new middle school, this money has to happen. We need this money, it has to happen. So making that is an important point to make.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we have a plan and the funds in place to maintain the rest of our school buildings. It's not just about building a new middle school.
Yes.
It needs to be about the future of the other facilities across the district. Because once you go for one bond, we can't keep going out and asking for another bond.
You couldn't say like a bond just for the school, $130 million goes to school, and then a separate bond for maintenance on elementary schools.
We could, we
Maybe
could
like
put two bonds out there.
Two bond
and
questions.
see what's.
Where I think a lot of people, when they saw the 167 million, that kind of to build a school, but it really was only gonna be, 130 minus some of that other money. So if we were talking, maybe the school itself is only gonna be, 125 or 120, that might have, been a little bit more, just for the school itself.
Right.
It was only gonna cost 120 million, not 167 million.
And I think the other part that some of the other communities may have done a better job on is also highlighting the reimbursement. So while it's 167 million, it's 45% of that after after the state reimbursement. Now, I know the math gets a little more complicated because there's fees, but
If it's put into separate bonds, do you lose the reimbursement rate? Would you only get 35% on the not school stuff?
so it all so even with this, if these projects were approved in time, what we would do is we would start creating bundles for reimbursement. So you'd look at health and safety, you'd look at security, you'd look at
Media centers, so you have an educational
educational
enhancement.
enhancement. So, some of the
Bundle together, you get more of that, sorry, you
Yeah,
get the
the
35,
additions-
but you get a 5 for this, a 5 for that, so there's a lot of other incentives you get by bundling it into a package.
the additions, we look at easing overcrowding. So we look at targeting bonuses, just building packages a little bit
It
different.
doesn't matter where the funding source is coming from, it's about how how you bundle the projects together to get the most reimbursement back. Even if we had one bond, there still would have been capital improvement funds that we have. that would have been used for some of those projects. So you're just, you're submitting payments that are being paid through the bonds, submitting payments that are being used through capital improvement funds. It's all about how you package everything together for those reimbursements.
So you could do all these projects over 5 years, but just submit once at the end for one reimbursement and just say, here are our targets, here are our bonuses we targeted.
I think also too, when we talk about potential options, if it was 2 bonds, say, okay, maybe there's a bond question just for renovations, and we know that what we put forward tonight, that's 112 million, including some of the improvements at the middle schools, and maybe there's a bond that, for renovations, but it doesn't include the middle schools, right? You're not gonna put a bond for renovating the middle schools and a bond for building new, because what if we both pass? I mean, you don't have to use all the bond money, right? You're only gonna use what you need, so. But I think we gotta think about that as well, and then we also think about what that option is for the middle school. What is it, what are we putting out? Are we putting out, again, one consolidated middle school? Are we putting out, I talked about this before, maybe, just looking at, what we're hearing around the community, the survey is gonna help us. Maybe it's just a new Whitford Middle School and you renovate and you update DMS. If we were to go back, if we were to say 2 schools, what we need to consider is that the space that we're proposing to build the new consolidated middle school would be the space that you would probably build a new DMS. And that requires the movement of the fields, the replacement of the parks, because we have to do that. So now your cost is still going to be higher, and that's what we've heard, the cost is high, because if you build just one new school that's DMS in that area, you're still moving the fields, and you're still paying for a lot of site work and demolition. So we really need to kind of, consider that of the needs and what we do with the middle schools.
And the other thing is the square footage, because now you need 2 principals' offices. So there's some square footage savings. I want to say, was it between 20 and 30,000 square feet? Somewhere in that range of square footage savings by having one consolidated versus 2. So you'd have to at least consider that. You may need 2 80,000 square foot middle schools versus 140,000 square foot middle school.
Is there any way of saving any part of Davisville? Without, if one area, one side of it becomes, so you could cut some of your costs by using part of the school. I think East Greenwich did that when they built their middle school. They turned around and they added on to what was there, pretty much, whatever, because the school was decent enough to fix and build a bigger school.
And I think
They built all new.
Yeah.
You were on the
East
building
Greenwich,
committee for.
they took parts of it down initially, like they took down the gym and they took down a wing and they built temporary classrooms, and they actually bused the students to the high school for those few years, and then in the end, they demolished the rest of it.
And I know that is one of the options, right? I believe Praise Eastman was calling it heavy renovation. So a heavy renovation to DMS and a replacement of Whitford Middle School.
But that also requires swing space.
Correct.
For students, which adds a significant cost onto all of this. Because you're talking renting trailers and there's safety issues, there's just morale issues for both the students and the teachers and our staff. So adds a
Very
lot.
unhappy families. We're not gonna wanna have children in a situation like that.
For years.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend,
I,
having to, build a whole new school where you're putting kids and staff in trailers while the school's being built. I mean, I wouldn't recommend or support that.
Yeah.
So,
neither would I.
Mary, I know you keep
Sorry.
raising your hands.
One thing, after the last meeting, when I mentioned some of the things that had actually been done, that people didn't think had been done, when I left here, a couple of people came and, grabbed me, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Where was this information?" And I said, the school department site for the new building, and they said, oh, we went to the town council site and found nothing there.
That actually is the same experience I had with the citizens who wrote to me and said, I went to the town website looking for information about the school bond and never bothered to, or never realized that they had information at the school website.
On the town website, we had your link.
I'm
Because
just
you had so
telling you,
no,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I know you're
I'm
not
saying
saying
this is what I
I wasn't
heard.
taking it that way. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
you had so much information that we just put your link. So if you had a question about the bond, you know, that's what we did. So
This person was not even aware of that, and this person said that they had a child at Whitford Middle School, and I was just, my head exploded. I couldn't believe that, but it's just not that easy for people unless they're really focused on it to figure out. If you're focused, you can get there, but it's not for the casual citizen. It may be a lot more difficult, so.
I don't know if it's allowed or not, but I know we have a whole lot of experts at the high school that are graphic design, you know, students that are amazing with graphic design and with technology design who could possibly.
So we thought of that. We were being really careful
I know.
of using our students
I know.
and staff to promote a bond.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of expertise, but we were being really careful at what we were putting out and how we were doing that. So. Any other comments, questions
I have
from?
questions, I guess, on just the whole stage two. So are we submitting a stage two for the capital improvement no matter what by February 15th? Is that the plan?
I mean, that would be the plan, and we would like to do that.
Is that feasible? I just know if somebody came to my firm and said I needed schematic design in 2 months.
It's a lot,
of this.
and we also just recently, I can't really talk about it, it's not on the agenda, but we're looking at funding sources of how we can do that.
But not even funding, just time-wise, it's a
Oh,
lot
right.
for someone to do in 2 months.
Mike, will this document be posted on our website?
Yes.
It will be.
Yeah, it'll be part of the school committee packet, so, but we'll put it up there, but it'll also be part of the school committee packet for next week.
I know they're doing the FCI, and that's a big deal for Whitford Middle School in Davisville. If that comes out over 65%, then does the state give any reimbursement on renovations?
They do, we ask, they
They
so,
do?
yes.
Okay. And are they eligible for any extra reimbursement?
The incentives, yes.
Yeah,
It depends on what the incentive is.
thank you.
Yes.
On this, on the program you're proposing here, are you planning to put together any information on cash flow basis? So for example, you're gonna get reimbursements, but you're not gonna get the reimbursement until after you're done and into the next year's phase. So therein, on a cash flow year-by-year basis, the whole picture is gonna be a little bit different.
We can do that. We have, whatever we put out may change. What I'm saying is because we have this 5-year plan,
Yep.
but something could shift. So if we say
You have
as
to
an
take
estimate,
solution.
right? This is, what we think it's going to happen, and then, you wouldn't receive it until a year later because you can change when you put those packages together. So we might say, okay, year 1, we're gonna complete what we say here. But as we move forward and recommendations from our OPM and others working with RIDE, they might say, don't put your reimbursement in right now, your request for that. Because if you wait just year 2 with other projects, you're gonna get more reimbursement back based on what incentives you can receive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if there are any other comments from the building committee regarding potential options, if you want to, send that to to myself or school committee. That way, that can, be part of a discussion at our next, the next two school committee meetings.
You're still limited to the Richford Middle School side and the Davisville side. We don't have, there's nothing else around to, that makes a big, a problem, not having a place you could build and then keep the other two functioning, but.
We are limited on space.
Want to schedule the next meeting now? Or what kind of time are you off for the next meeting? Crazy question, but I mean,
Well,
trying to think what would be the next meeting's agenda?
really, we're waiting on school committee and town council.
Okay.
I don't think there's really much more from this group.
And my understanding is that the town council won't be acting on this at the December 11th joint meeting with the school committee because they want to see what happens when the assembly opens up. And I think the first meeting is
The 18th?
18th, no, in January? We have December 11th. For some reason, I think the 4th, but I could be wrong, I'll tell you right now. I don't know why that's on the top of my head. No, it's not the 4th. 8th,
The 11th, you're right, I
Eight.
think the 11th. They
11th in
moved it to
December,
11th.
yes. And then the one after that is
December 11th.
January 8th. December 11th, yes. And then January 8th, so. Based on that schedule, our next meeting would be January 10th. Although it seems like a long way away, but I'm not sure what would be done before then. That's your call.
Right. I would not recommend another, I don't think there would be anything
No.
for us to
No.
discuss at that
We
moment.
can always call one if there is.
Yeah, if we need to, we can schedule one, but I would wait until January.
So do you want to set January 10th, or do you want to wait?
So January 8th would be the meeting of the General Assembly.
That's the council,
Oh,
town council.
council.
General Assembly will start January 1st.
January 1st.
Maybe we'll get a feel by the 8th, I don't know, I'll try. And maybe the 10th will know, but it's really the goal is for the council to have a feel by the 8th. Because then they'll decide what to do. That's the goal, is for the council have a feel from the General Assembly by January 8th. That's the goal.
So I'm not available on Wednesdays
I just
for
threw it out there.
January,
Okay.
but we can,
Yeah, I just threw that out there. Could be the 9th, could be the 11th. Or we just could wait.
the
It's
9th
your
I
call.
can't do.
Okay.
We have to move phones.
Or you move it to the following week, then?
Yeah, if we could look at the phone, I
Sure,
guess the
of
9th,
course.
10th, and 11th I can't do.
When do we have school committee that week?
So I'm looking, because we have to change the dates as well. For that. Yeah, actually, can we hold off on scheduling
Yes.
meetings right now? Just because we have some school committee dates we had to change.
Yep.
and shit. don't have
I think
all
we can see what
Fridays.
happens on the 8th, but sure, whenever you're ready, let me know, we'll go from there. And we'll make sure we keep in touch with everybody as far as the date. If something comes up where we need a meeting, I'll send out a quick invite, and hopefully we can make it work, so that would be a good sign that we need a meeting, so. But other than that, if there's any other discussion, there's a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Thanks.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, that's right.
What's up? No, I'll see you a few more times.